All right, guys. Thank you for joining the WWSD Podcast. We are sponsored by Collector's Maze. You can find them at www.collectorsmaze.com for all things fandom related to comics, creators, movies, television, cosplay, and more. I'm Kyle, and as always, I'm joined here by Josh and Seamus. And we have a special guest tonight, James Robertson. James is an author and just released his second book, The Ripper, in the Next Life book series. All right, so James, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. How's it going for you, man?
Pretty good. So how'd you get into this whole book writing thing?
That started, actually, you know what? It came from like when I was younger. I was very like pretty hard into religion, like pretty Christian and stuff. But as time went on, I kind of started questioning the world around me a bit more. And so I guess my writing kind of flows from that perspective. And so I just started writing one day, trying to put into words of what could be and why things are. And yeah.
So all of your writing has some sort of like kind of underlying theme of religion. Would you say that's true?
Yeah. So the writing stems from religion, and it goes into all the different religions. Like it focuses on Christianity, the Islam. There's some Nordic stuff and Greek stuff as well. So it's just a bunch of religions combined, going through like different philosophies and kind of looking into each one and looking at their similarities, but also their differences. So, and that's.
So your first book, how long has that been out?
That came out last May, actually, is when the first edition came out. So, and I started writing that actually back when I was 20 years old. So that was like 10 years ago now. And I just started it, and I think I wrote about 10,000 words, but then I was going through school, so I kind of put it back, just had it on a flash drive forever. And then this last year, my grandpa kind of passed away, and then my dad had a hip problem, so I was helping him out for a bit. And so I just started writing again while I was doing that, and soon enough I had a book, so and that's where that happened. So.
As you're going that.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say. So you say you started that when you're 20. Did you write anything previously before that, like short stories or any other kind of writing, like creative writing?
Actually, when I was in like 6th grade, I did like I threw the story away, but it was kind of cheesy, I guess, but but I could tell you the basis of it. It was like some dude wakes up from a coffin after people are like praying, and I think I was playing Prince of Persia around the time, so I was kind of getting like that kind of vibe, and they're like dark people basically causing the end of days happen, and so the prayers were being answered by that guy. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really done any writing previously.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty like heady concepts for a 6th grader.
Yeah, I was about to say it's cool.
Yeah.
6th grader.
That's cool.
Dark shit.
Hey, that was a cheesy story about
allegory.
It's about
about life and death.
Just a resurrection allegory, like.
Yeah.
So, as you're writing this book, so you sit it down and you pick it up about 10 years later. Is there anything that's changed in the idea of the story that you wanted to tell over the course of the 10 years that you originally wanted to tell?
You know, not really, not in the big aspects. I changed a few things plot-wise around. Like I went back and did some more editing, and obviously going through college, I got more perspectives and stuff that way. So that kind of changed my writing style, I guess you could say. But as for the story as a whole, it kind of remained true to its original self. So there wasn't too much switching around that. So I just continued to build and I don't really No, I can't think of anything. Sorry.
So
Sorry
before we dive too far in, let's would you mind letting our listeners know kind of like what your book's about, like the main plot, like storyline stuff? Like, what is it like? How does the universe work? Because we didn't really talk about that yet. I don't want to get too far ahead.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the main plot of the first book is there's this kid, and he basically dies, and then he wakes up falling from the sky, and he's trying to, because at first he doesn't realize he's dead. So, and as he explores that more and things that nature, he kind of falls into this world. He's not sure what's going on, and then more and more stuff is thrown at him and thrown at him, and so he's in the next life. But what's going on there, which you'll learn in the prologue, so it's not too much of a spoiler, but he's fighting against these other gods who have begun to invade and kill our gods. And it's a big world. And that's just the start of it. There's people from the past you'll meet. There's other characters you'll meet that are brand new. And yeah, it's honestly a great outlet for my writing and just myself as a whole. So, and then there's these power aspects, which is pretty cool. Because whatever killed you, you're trying to conquer it in the next life. This is called your conquest. And the way that works is there's also what killed you, and then there's what you did in your life. If that had a greater impact on your life, one of the characters puts it in a great way. If you think of posthumous promotions for military, say someone dies after seeking a greater rank in the military, and they usually unfortunately get promoted in their death. So the way the characters see that is it's kind of like that. So you can either work really hard during your life to get something great, or you'll die and then you'll be granted something and somewhere around the similar rank. But it's not always the case. Some people just die and they'll just be there kind of rejuvenated or what have you. And that's cool and stuff, but yeah.
So in the world that you have going on here, and so you die and you go into the next world, and some of the ways that you died or some of the things that you did in your past life influenced your life there, right?
Correct.
Can you die in that afterlife? Does that happen?
I'm trying to think. You can die, but unless something spoilage happens, you can't be permadead, if that makes sense.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, you definitely can die though, so it is a possibility. So, and you still have to consume food and energy and stuff like that to keep your body functioning. So,
and what's like the distinguishment between like a god and like someone who's crossed over into like this afterlife?
Well, all right. So more on the ranking system, because when you first come over, you could have a decent conquest. It won't be like you'll master it right away. These people have to like work towards that and start to understand how their body's now working. But the gods obviously already have that. Plus, they're just not limited to that one power. They have access to others, depending on the god. So that's kind of how that works.
I'm sure this might be a
Cool.
spoiler, but could a mortal man become a god by like probably killing a god or something along those lines? I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Something happens that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. So, go ahead, Seamus.
Oh, I was just gonna say I read a little bit of your first book. I got right to the part where Remy shows up.
Okay. Yeah.
It's really cool. I really like the origin story of the king,
Okay,
and
yeah.
and the collectors are really cool too.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things, yeah.
I don't even know how those came to me, but I really liked how they came out, like the thing about their eyes and everything. Just it gave me a really clear visual of what they would look like. So,
Yeah, you did a good job of like conveying the imagery too. It was interesting.
yeah. Remy's actually one of my favorite characters of that book. He's got a unique personality. You'll learn. So.
Cool.
Well, so James, so you wrote the book when you're 20, and then you said you waited about 10 years before publishing. Were you trying to publish before that, or were you just not really thinking about it? And then like one day you just thought like, hey, I have this book I wrote. Let's get it published. Like how did that actually work?
So I wrote the first 3 chapters when I was like, I think I was working at like Pizza Hut at the time, something like that. And was kind of chilling with my friend, and we were in Missouri because he was going to school there. And so that's how I had time to do that. And then he had some family issues. And so I kind of moved up there on my own because I just wanted to see New York is where he was from. And that's when I ended up going to school. So I didn't actually finish the book, just the first 3 chapters. And I still worked on it a little bit because I had like a library job at the school. So on the downtimes, I would just kind of do either my homework, or if I didn't have that going on, they'd let us read or do some work on the side. So I did a little more writing there. But yeah, I only got to like the 3rd chapter, and then I just put it away for the years until that past year with my dad and grandpa is when I finally completed it. So yeah, but on the publishing side, I never really tried a traditional publisher. Like I read about it, but they're kind of strict and they want you to write their way, honestly. And I don't know if I want to change my story that much. Like I like the tone of everything, and I like my ideas being how they are. And some people are gonna be like, that may not sell that great. Well, too bad. It's more about the story for me, and I'm
That's
sure
cool.
I'll find my audience. So, and yeah.
So
Go ahead.
you're completely independently published then.
Yes, correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Have you had anyone try to like reach out to you about like joining them and they're under their publishing, or have you
Not yet. No one's tried it, and I haven't reached out to anyone, so they probably won't even know until then. But on the publishing side, there's a lot of different outlets you can go nowadays. There's KDP. There's try and think of the name. Smashwords is a big one. The one I went with was called Draft to Digital, which they have a really great system there. Their paperback is needing a little work, but it's only in the beta right now, so I'm sure that'll get its issues worked out over time. But yeah, basically you just upload your draft and then send it into them, and it goes right through the system, and you can put copyright and you can put your editors in there, and then they'll send it out to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, who else? There's Kobo's a big one too. Just a bunch of different publishing companies, and then there's also libraries they send it to, so people can check out your books, either audiobook or ebook. And I think they have paperback as well that they're getting into there. And they
That's awesome.
partner. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, it's really cool that they send it out to libraries. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah, that's a really big one actually. A lot of people checked out my book from libraries, which is cool. And then
That's really awesome.
Yeah, and one last thing on that is they have a partnership actually with Findaway Voices, which is the audiobook distributor, which they send it out to basically the same level of industries, even to ACX, which on that ACX actually you have to sign a 7-year contract with them to publish just to those 3: Apple, Amazon, and I think there's one other.
What is ACX?
It's for the audiobook. So they'll make you sign it. If you go through Amazon, they'll make you sign a 7-year contract to.
Is it just 7 years for them to host it, or like what was that contract actually?
It means you get a few small benefits, but they get the rights to your book only to publish to those platforms for those 7 years. Basically, you can't.
Gotcha.
You can still do paperback or ebook, but you're stuck with audiobook, which Find a Way Voices doesn't do that. So you can go with wherever. And they actually have a higher rate than ACX gives you through Apple, which I thought was pretty cool. So you don't even have to sign a contract that way, and you still get more money out of it. So sorry. Getting a little winded there.
So I remember when we talked the other day, you mentioned you're editing the first book to re-release it as like a second edition.
Yes.
Like, why is that? Were you just not happy the way it turned out, or like was it just mistakes that were made, or why would you go back and
there were a few small edits. Like I was just starting out, so I didn't have the funds at the time. I didn't have an editor, which I thought I did a pretty decent job, but then going back through it, I missed a couple small little things that would, for consistency wise. So I'm just going back through it and editing so it's more fluent. And the main thing is the cover on the first book I wasn't too happy about, because I was just getting into drawing. Like I drew the second and third cover on my own, but the first one, I was literally just getting into art. So I was like, that one needs a redo in my opinion. So that's kind of why I'm doing that. The main purpose.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. I didn't realize you also did the art for the covers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you have like, is there a certain type of person that you have in mind when you're writing this, or that you're thinking about might like your books?
Certain person. I would say if you like DC comics or Stephen King, maybe a mix of the two, because it's more on the darker side, but it also has that action vibe as well as you get more into the books and the stories. And the characters isn't just one protagonist. That's kind of why I have these different side books, is without spoiling too much, at the end they'll all kind of converge in their own ways. So
that's awesome. Yeah, just from the reading that I did, I could definitely see it being like kind of a graphic novel too. You know, like a lot of cool imagery, a lot of different characters.
Yeah, if I had the talent for that, I would definitely do it. So,
are your books like kid friendly, or are they something more geared towards just adults only?
I would say 13 and older. I wouldn't say they're kid friendly at all, but they're I'd say as a teen I would have read something like this. Like I read Stephen King as a teen, so. And I don't think it's much darker than that, but definitely not for like your little kid shouldn't read it.
I know some of the Stephen King stuff can get pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Like in The Stand and stuff, there was some crazy stuff that happens. So
yeah,
I didn't know if you get kind of out there with that.
Yeah, there's a few scenes, but I keep it relatively short, but nothing too bad has happened yet. Directly, like they make mention of some stuff at the end of the first book, but
so you mentioned that like a big motivation for you for creating this world was some of your early experiences with religion, right?
Yeah.
So how what's the experience like within you, like when these things are kind of like materializing as you're writing them? Right? Is it something that you do like piece by piece, or is it something that you've kind of just visualized and it's coming into place? What's that like for you?
So on the first book, that kind of was just a writing discovery process. Like I would just write and it comes to me. I never really do storyboards. I had to a little bit on the second book because it's more related or founded in actual stuff that happened, and I try to keep it somewhat similar to the situation of Jack the Ripper. So I had to make a little bit of a storyboard around it, which I hopefully don't have to do again. I wasn't a fan of writing that way because it kind of felt like it was limiting my inspiration, but I still think that one came out. But as far as the religion and the writing aspect, yeah, it kind of just came out how it was. Just as a whole, it was just based around my feelings at the time. So
yeah, so it was something. So it was something that came together as you went.
yes, correct.
Okay.
So you said you don't actually storyboard your books out. Like I know you said you're working on your third one now and your fourth one, I believe, when we talked. So like from the overarching plot, like do you have it like just written down like, hey, this is the plot of it, and you kind of fill in everything around it? Like how does that actually work in that creative process?
So I have like a few minor points written down, but that's only for consistency from the other books, so I don't forget something that happened or something like that. But for the majority, I just kind of write and make the story up as I kind of feel like it needs to be. Like I don't know how, I just write and it comes, I guess is how it works. So
for like I remember you mentioned for the second book it's around the witches aspect of it. Do you have like more of like those like sects of like because you have like all the overarching organizations in your world, so is like each book a different like organization, or you haven't really gone that far yet?
It had, okay. So I'm trying to do this without spoilers.
we can skip this question if it's too hard. I don't want any of this stuff spoiled, so don't feel like you have to say it.
It's hard to say, but there are different factions involved on our world along with other worlds. So there's a bunch that comes together eventually. I guess is about all I can really say. So
but like from your writing there, since you don't really like draw it out, like how many books do you theoretically think you have like more or less like outlined in your head? Like is it just the 4 and you're kind of
no.
Okay.
There's gonna be a lot because I have a bunch of characters. There's yeah, I don't even know how many. The main story, I think, the Next Life series, which will be the main story, I think that'll kind of end up being a 4 to 8 book part 1, which will split. So that'll be like the end of a huge arc is what I'm trying to say, will be
okay
after the 4th to 8th, somewhere in there. But the side characters, well, they're not really side characters, they're kind of main protagonists too. I have at least 4 in mind right now, with a few others kind of just in the back of my mind, just starting to be created as I think about it. So but there's at least 4 for now, maybe 5 that are kind of big important ones. So yeah, there'll be a lot of books, at least 20 plus. So
very ambitious.
Yeah, so you obviously have a pretty overarching vision of how you want this universe to play out and like the books you want to write. As far as like what do you want this like all this like your work to accomplish in the world, like for yourself, for your family, for your just in general, in that way?
I think he wants that Netflix deal and the graphic novel.
I mean, a graphic novel would be pretty cool, but I'd have to find someone that would be willing to do that.
We have some connections if
all right.
He's actually not
Possibly.
joking. I actually know quite a few artists. I have all their numbers listed, so we can talk about that later.
All right, yeah. But on the movie side, I don't want to call anyone out, but there's a HBO series I'm sure we're all aware of that kind of like the books weren't completed, so I don't want to I don't want to go down that route and like not have my story finished and have the ending turn out really bad. So.
Please refrain from Game of Thrones spoilers. It hasn't been enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he feels bad about the ending that they did to his story. So
I don't think he fucking cares at all.
Well, I think that was kind of purpose because I actually just started rewatching it again for like the 12th time. And, I mean, it doesn't make any sense for him to be like, okay, you guys can go ahead and spoil my life's
good ending.
Yeah.
So I think that was actually the bad ending that he allowed them to do, because before he gave them the rights to make the series, he said, okay, you have to tell me what the ending is. So they had to know the ending beforehand. So I think that was so that way he could say, well, you can't do that ending. You can do something else, which is what we got was that. So I'm holding out. I'm hoping, because I was just looking at he's supposed to finish the book this year.
Oh, really?
Fucking 3 years ago at this point. Fuck, dude.
Oh, dude, it's a fucking masterpiece. Like, give him a break, dude.
I'm telling you, I really hope he dies before it comes out. I think it would be so awesome.
Fuck that, dude.
If he dies before he gets his final work is published.
Why do you want that? Doesn't make any sense. That's like
terrible.
So
like have you had enough since Firefly? Since
So we're gonna tangent a little bit, but so if his book never gets finalized or the completely written, like just finished, it'll never end badly. Like a lot of people have really good memories and really good feelings with his books. And what if he does use the same ending that they used in the show? Would you?
Come on, he's not gonna do that.
I don't know if he would. I mean, how do you know? Like,
he's I'm sure like he's a masterful writer. That's for one thing.
I'm not disagreeing there, but maybe that was his ending. Maybe he thought like in his head like this was like the best way to end the series. And like,
no, I can think off the top of my head at least 5 different ways that it could have been.
Oh, anyone could have.
Or so much more poetically satisfying. So
yes.
I have faith that the guy who wrote like this amazing dialogue, the books are absolutely amazing. Like if the people who just like the series on HBO, like, dude, read the books too. The books are even better. You know, and that's hard for me to say because I don't like reading. Like I very rarely read, but like those books I absolutely enjoy.
I'm sorry, James. We're derailing.
No.
That's
I brought it up. So,
but do you no longer talk about George the rest of this interview?
But James, so I mean, you already mentioned Stephen King. Are there any other like other authors that you look up to that are kind of role models for you?
I don't know. Main authors. I mean J.K. Rowling, but that was only as a kid. Her series wasn't too dark, but there were aspects in the later books that I liked. The more violent parts of it. So I just like dark fantasy writing, I guess, in general.
So you mentioned DC Comics was like kind of like one of your inspirations for your writing, or your writing is very similar to that. Do you have any DC stuff that you're a fan of?
Oh yeah, just like the Superman, and I just think DC Comics as a whole is way more adult friendly than say Marvel. I don't know. That's just how I feel from everything I've read. Like,
yeah, no, I agree with you. 100% agree with you. It is a little bit more realistic.
Yeah,
like it's yeah.
So that's just, I don't know.
What's some of the DC stuff you've read? Like, what are you a fan of?
I've been reading the new Superman one. I can't even think of it. It's where he's basically locked in the, what is that name? The Phantom Zone. There we go. And it's kind of a strange read too, because he's in there, and then there's also there's this new character that's really strange, like some like beefed up Superman I don't even know what the name is. It's been a few months since I read it, but it's really cool. And then like Earth is kind of caught up in it too. It is very strange. Like I don't know.
Okay,
I'll have to catch up. Like I said, it's been a few months. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been working on this.
Yeah. No, I haven't really been reading new DC stuff. Nothing really post New 52 too much. But yeah, no, it's cool you're reading that stuff. I'm a big DC fan.
Yeah. Constantine's a really cool character.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. I love his stuff.
Not Keanu Reeves, Constantine, Kyle.
I know you're gonna say that.
John Constantine, blonde, British.
I actually like the TV series they had a while back, but it was only one season, unfortunately. So
I heard it was supposed to get picked up again through HBO because it's supposed to be part of like the Titans brand with Titans, Swamp Thing, and Doom Patrol. They're supposed to bring back Constantine, but I don't know if that's coming to fruition.
I can't think of the name right now. It escapes me. Like it's the dark.
It's the Justice League Dark.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, with like Zatanna and stuff.
Yeah. There you go.
So
yeah,
yeah, we keep getting derailed here. So let's get back on track. I can talk about comics all night. Like I literally did it for like 3 hours the other day. So we don't need to talk about comics. And Kyle hates comics and comic book movies.
I don't fucking hate comics. God damn it.
Josh is a master of hyperbole, by the way.
I saw.
I'm sorry. Kyle likes Spider-Man 3. That's
Spider-Man 3 out of all.
No, he's fucking.
Kyle's losing all his street cred. Like this motherfucker like Spider-Man 3. Who the fuck is Tom Holland?
All right. I'm gonna drink here.
Yes. So I'm still kind of amazed by your story. Like you never really was a writer, and then all of a sudden you decided to start writing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like what'd you go to college for? I think it was like computers, right? You went for computer science.
Yeah, and originally I did a little bit in IT. It was networking and stuff. But then I went back and got I did like a minor in theater arts, which kind of helps with my voice acting when I do the like narration stuff for the audiobook. And then politics, which you can see kind of a little bit of that throughout the series too. I think there's a little bit of a political vibe to it of how things go, and there's definitely some mentions of history and stuff like that comes in the books, and it kind of just looks back and it's like, wow, that happened and now it's happening now, and kind of that sort of thing. So
I kind of got like this Gnosticism vibe from the story that you were giving us, like that the gods are lying to us. Like that's kind of where what I got. How do your own...
the other religions?
Well,
what was that?
Josh is our resident atheist.
Yeah, I'm just anti-religion, but it's neither here nor there. Continue, Colin. Sorry, I derailed you.
How do you incorporate your own like religious beliefs within this universe that you made?
Okay, so I used to be really like Christian, and then I'd be like, "Where's the sign? Where's the sign?" And nothing ever came. So I was just I became agnostic since then, and that's kind of where that came from. And that's kind of why I wrote the gods as kind of lying to us in that way, because why else are at the start of the book I kind of make the comparison. There's like Christianity / Catholics and Judaism versus Islam over Jerusalem, but they both have like the same prophets and basically the same gods. So why are they fighting over the same land? And one's telling them it's their land, and the other's telling them it's their land, and that's kind of where like it all like started from. So yeah.
So if we're reading the book, we're going to see like gods that we're familiar with. They're not going to be like made up gods, like saying like a Tolkien universe.
No, the gods will be made up. They actually in the books they created religion, like they created these fake gods and fake religion, which that comes into play later on to those gods that they created. But for the most part, there's not really any direct correlation to our gods other than the stories those gods created about them.
So there's no like Jesus Christ is just someone else, like just saying he's Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they basically they just said this happened and blah blah blah, and then this happened blah blah blah, and just to create that conflict and division in the world here, so that way they get their fighters on the other side.
Do those gods exist in that Earth universe? In your books, or like, do the gods that exist in our universe exist in that one as well, or is it just like a different kind of a parallel thing?
In a way, it's hard to say without spoiling, because that's a big play in the next book, the Desperados Tell. But you'll see more of that, because he's way from the past. Is that character? Like, you'll see. So he's on a different world in our universe, but that world has since doesn't really exist too much anymore. So.
Cool. Have you had any other religious people having any issues with your books? Like, have you received any like threats or any people like trying to protest you since it's so religious heavy?
Not really. I've got a couple of reviews that have been like, it's religion involved, but it was never done in a bad way, which for the most part that's true. But I definitely called out Scientology as being created by a science fiction writer, so the gods didn't create. So you'll see that in there. But
that's funny.
Yeah,
you should make your own religion as like a PR stunt.
Yeah, I could.
That's a good fallback plan, apparently.
Yeah.
Is Pastafarian a real religion in your book?
I don't think so.
Oh, come on, fly spaghetti monster.
That's humans deceiving humans.
Yeah, that's what's mentioned. So
yeah. Oh, Kyle, you were trying to say something before I interrupted you.
I was gonna ask you, like, do you draw clear lines in the sand between like good and evil, as far as the characters go in your book, like driving forces?
Not really. At the start, it kind of goes that way, but then there's definitely parts of it that are like, was that really bad? Would you have done that differently? So no, there's not really a good and evil aspect. It's at this point, it's they're just looking at the invading gods as kind of the evil force, but even then it's kind of complicated between the different factions, because there's some humans that are like that welcome these new overlords, I guess you could say, where others are against what they're doing. So
and so you're telling you're saying that the gods are lying to us. Are they being truthful about like a Satan figure or like a devil figure?
So that actually plays into the Ripper. There is a character in there, and he says the gods actually based me on Lucifer, is what. So there's plays in it that relate to our world, but a lot of it is just they're just trying to confuse the masses, I guess you could say.
In just the little bit I read, there was a pretty nuanced take on good and evil just in that first bit. So
yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yes.
So what? Good.
Oh, I was just gonna ask what your podcast was actually about. WWSD. So I never did get to know what that was. What that stood for.
So it used to stand for what would Seamus do, and I got gun shy about having my name in the title, and I asked everybody to take it out, and we didn't have a.
Did you guys change it to what would?
Well,
no,
I think
it's just the WWSD.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about doing like worldwide social discourse or something like that.
Yeah. That kind of fits so far, like in what we're doing. We're kind of relating.
Like, the only reason we really kept the name to WWSD Podcast was because of branding already. We already have our websites and everything's already set up with that branding, and all our logos are set up. And so we were already, I think at that time, like 3 or 4 podcasts deep. So I didn't really want to pivot because like we were building momentum on it, and I was afraid like what momentum we had we might have lost because it is kind of confusing to change those things. especially when you're going to like a completely different name. We didn't really have like a good name either really picked out, and we kind of needed like pull the trigger, and it kind of blew up in this big weird fight for like a couple days.
There's a lot of crying, tears, angry outbursts, and that was just Seamus.
That's just
I actually kind of like it because like it doesn't really mean anything, and people always ask about it, and so it's even funnier. Like it's just like it really doesn't mean anything at this point, but it still has some historical relevance to it. And like Kyle said, we might try and figure out like a way to use the acronym.
I've been trying to recruit a new Seamus. I put out an ad, not too much, but just looking for a new Seamus. Like this one's not working really well. So.
He's not accepting his role.
So James, so you're working on the third book now. When do you plan on having the third one out? Like, what's your publishing schedule?
At the start, I thought I'd have it out like mid to late 2021. But it's looking more like late 2021 to early 2022 because this one's going to be a bigger book because there's a lot more to cover on this character rather than just the Ripper or the start of the first book. So, so the others were like 240 to like 300 pages in that vicinity for paperback. This one's probably going to be at least double the 300. I'm assuming 500 at minimum.
So a real thick boy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bigger book because there's a lot to cover on the character, and I don't really want to split it into 2 stories, so that's why that's gonna take a little longer. But, yeah.
And are you still self-editing it, or have you got to the point where you can like acquire like editors and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just get a couple editors on the side now.
Okay.
And that I already had someone re-look at the first book, and I'm kind of working with them now on editing that. And I had someone look at the second book when I was doing that before release, so that one should be taken care of. So,
cool.
But yeah.
Now, has this become like your full-time job? I mean, you don't have to get into like financial details, but do you still work a day job, or is this becoming like your full-time job?
I mean, honestly, it's kind of a full-time job, but I also have like a few side jobs that I work on. It's mostly self-employment though at this point, but I do want to just do this because the time it takes to write, edit, create the cover, do the marketing, and then do the audiobook recording, getting the people, like you're basically your own cast director at that point. So it's a lot of work, and then you gotta go back through and edit the lines and make that all fit through the story, and then finally hopefully it sounds right at the end.
do you have like a writing routine that you stick to, or?
Well, right now I'm kind of just working on the audiobook portion because I'm trying to get that out. But usually I write in between 1,000 words to 2,500 words at least 5 times a week. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
So that's what I try to do. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little under, but it usually balances out in between that. So
when you're writing, are you working on one project at a time, or do you jump between books and articles or other kinds of writing?
For the writing aspect, I'll usually work on one for the most part, but if something like really comes to me, like I feel like I really need to write something down, I'll probably type out like I know I've done a few different prologues for the upcoming books that they kind of just came to me one day. I'm like, I gotta get this written down, and so I'll do that. But for the most part, I just stick to the one book. So that way I can just focus on that and its story rather than trying to jump from one point to another and then trying to line up those stories. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So do you guys
Go ahead.
I know one of you said you read, but do the other two, one doesn't like to read and one's so-so, or
me personally, I haven't read anything in a while. I used to read a lot of comics, a lot of comics. Now it's really hard because I'm a father and I work full time, and I do podcasting full time at this point. It seems like it's even. But I mean, I read all day long just because of the field I'm in. It requires a lot of reading. I work in IT. I'm a
Nice.
so like so it's like reading all day for me, but like for fun, I haven't read anything in a very long time.
Okay. I got
what about Seamus? What about you? I think you're probably in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly read like nonfiction, like self development books, and like, I'm a programmer, so I read a lot of stuff on that. And but yeah, I like fiction from time to time, but I'm mostly a nonfiction, technical kind of reading.
Yeah.
I think audio. Yes, I do. I probably read more than you. Like comics. That's not a book. Okay, that's not a book.
Really, you want this discussion now? You really want to go into this discussion now?
I have a bookshelf right here. Like
I have a bookshelf, motherfucker. I got long boxes over there as well.
Those are comic books. Okay.
They're graphic novels. Let me introduce my friend Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore. They've won many awards.
I think like where I'm at now though, like I think audiobooks are like more feasible than anything.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to like Dracula, like that's pretty good.
Oh, that's cool.
I like the audiobooks that have like all the production values of like a television show. I know that's what you're saying you're trying to do with all your voice actors.
Yeah.
Like I really dig those audiobooks because I feel like you're like listening to a show. It's really entertaining. When it's just some like dry fucking dude just reading the book, it's pretty boring.
I mean, if you can get James Earl Jones or something for you,
come on.
or Christopher Judge, you know, he's really good. I listened to a podcast with him recently. Anyway, it was.
I want to circle back around the Sentinels.
It's Sentinels, Sentinels.
Sentinels, Christopher Judd, Sentinels, TL, Christopher Judd.
Use that for lunch.
I've been wanting to get into fiction more lately. Like when I was younger, I didn't you know, I was like really kind of focused on like science. I didn't see much you know, I was kind of naive. I didn't see much like worth in it, but I really think it's cool now to like cause like there's a lot of cool ideas that like in fiction that are like that kind of really add to your life when you read it too. So I'm trying to get more into that. So
yeah, I feel you. I just started reading again a few years back. So like when I was younger, I did like Harry Potter and then like Old Man in the Sea and just like all the
cool.
I made read. So which really got me started into reading, I guess. So I took a break for a while during school because, oh my God, poli-sci, you have to read so much. It's ridiculous. So, but I've been getting back into it too. So, besides my writing. So.
Did you study politics? Was that like an intentional decision to put that into your writing, or did you have other plans for that?
Originally I planned like run for office and stuff like that, but cool. I just never got around to it, and so I decided.
You're still pretty young.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
you got a lot of time left.
Yeah.
This is James G. Robertson's debut into politics here.
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah. So I don't know. I probably would do terrible at debates, but I did like a bunch of side stuff while I was working there. Like or rather going to school in SUNY Oswego. I got a bunch of people to register, and I felt pretty good about that. But that's about as far as my political career went. But it was pretty cool.
So
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I know your book series that you're working on now. Do you have any other like ideas for like future book series? Or you kind of planned it out for like 20 books, but is there like anything you want to dip into, like more like science fiction instead of the dark fantasy stuff, or is it like more maybe it's like horror? Like, are you looking to branch off into other genres or different stories?
Well, the first book is kind of like a mix of fantasy, dark fantasy, and then it's got a bit of science fiction thrown in, which you'll catch. And the second book's a mix of horror / dark fantasy. So,
but you don't want to like do like a horror series per se.
Not at this moment. I can't really think of like. I'm sure there'll be more horror books that are mixed within the universe because I have a few ideas for some of the characters at the end of the second book that. As far as a horror series, and you'll get to see like some witches and what they are fighting against, which I plan to do like a more reality based, I guess you could say, where it's just normal people that have to experience those horrors. So but that won't be for a little bit because I still got to work on these. So.
Are these books standalone, or do you need to read them chronologically?
So as it is now, the first two, which is the First in the Next Life series and the Ripper, you could read those in any order. But for the Ripper and the third book, it's probably better to read those in order. So the Ripper and then the Desperados Tell. But then after that, it'll probably, for the most part, be chronological. There will be a few books here and there. I try to list it because I just put those as prequels because technically they are before the book, but also you have to read them after the first book. You can read them before. So, yeah. As for now, it's non-chronological, but it'll get that way pretty fast. So.
Cool.
Yes.
All right. We're hitting that hour mark. Do you guys have any other questions for James? I don't want to keep him here all night.
Yeah, I got one. So your first book won an award, right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So it was just a small award at a literary Titan publishing. They just do book reviews, and they said my book had some pretty good potential, so I got the silver award. So maybe with the extra editing and the new cover, it could get a gold. I don't know. I might go back and let them read the second edition when it comes out to see how that works. And
Cool.
I've also entered it in a few indie awards here, and so, but those are taking a little longer. And that should be all announced by the end of June or July for those. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I was pretty excited to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Have you hit up like your like high school English teacher and been like, yeah, check this out. Look at me now.
To be honest, I don't even remember my high school English teacher.
Oh,
That's pretty sad.
Like they're listening right now,
Man.
like, God damn it, James.
This motherfucker.
Hey, you had a chance to make that lady's life right now. You know, that's joking.
Well, or guy.
Or guy,
Yeah,
yeah, could be.
Yeah. Come on,
I-
James.
I imagine a
2021.
tender-old lady. She's like, James, you should really take your like religious views and like blend them into a book sometime. And then he's like, yeah, whatever, lady. And then like a couple years later, now you got like a 20-book series.
So I do have one last question, James. For any of our listeners that are looking to possibly start writing or start self-publishing their own books, do you have any words of wisdom or any advice you can give them? Anything that might help them out?
Yeah, I mean, just have confidence in yourself. You can't. I've seen a lot of writers that are just questioning. They're like, "This is terrible," and just throw it away. But instead of throwing away and starting over, you should finish it out and just go back and just edit the draft until you're finally happy with your product. As nothing's perfect the first time around, so you just got to keep going and see where that idea develops and see how it goes. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm usually pretty miserable, so I don't think anything's ever perfect.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of lightning questions for you. Kyle or Seamus, any other like last questions for him? We'll do the lightning round, and we can have him plug what he needs to plug.
Matt, I think that's it. I think thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, man.
Wish you the best of luck
that's-
with everything. I like I said, I really enjoyed this what I read of your books. So
Yeah.
probably gonna continue.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know what you think at the end. So.
Yeah,
We'll do a Seamus review. That'd be actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll review the book. That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right, it's a lightning round. What's your favorite book?
Dark Tower. Probably the drawing of the three is probably my favorite one. No.
Gotcha. Kyle said like your stuff did reminisce for the Dark Tower a little bit, so that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
What's your favorite comic book?
Watchmen.
See, Kyle, that's a common theme.
There's so many, man. I mean, Constantine books are really good.
The old Hellblazer stuff's so good. That's some of my favorite stuff to read. Yeah.
We'll just say Constantine's. Constantine's.
All right.
Probably
Who's your favorite comic hero or villain? I'll let you do either or.
Darkseid, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty deep cut.
That's actually interesting, like, because your books kind of have a not Darkseid. Never mind. I was thinking of Doomsday. Right.
Yeah, they're a little bit different.
With the like the dying.
It's funny because Darkseid is one of the new gods, so it actually lines up with his stuff.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, Darkseid's pretty awesome. He's one of the more serious characters. So
the Omega Beams, man, that shit's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
If you can have your work published as any other medium, video game, comic, TV show, movie, what would you prefer? What would be your ideal medium for it outside of written literature?
I would say TV series, because I don't think movies would do it justice with how deep it would go and how I wouldn't want it cut is what I'm saying. Like it'd have to be a very long movie or a good
multiple
TV
movie.
series. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
well, James.
Yeah.
No, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm really glad we hooked up and got this happening tonight. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was
if you want to blast
chat.
your website, Twitter, everything, go blast it all now. This is the time. Let our listeners know where they can find you and how to check out your stuff.
nextlifeuniverse.com is the official website, and then my Twitter is @nextjamesrobert. So yeah, and that's about all I have for social medias.
Where can people buy your books?
They can get it. The official links are on the website, so at nextlifeuniverse.com, but it's also like on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Google Play, just a bunch of different
every
spots,
major one.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck with your second book. You said the paperback's releasing sooner now, and then you're working on the audio version of the Ripper.
Yeah, the audiobook should be out in March, I'm hoping, and the paperback has a limit release on Lulu, their platform, lulu.com, but the bigger one will come out for a wide release sometimes next month. I just gotta kind of decide between Amazon and Drafted Digital to see which is the better one for that. So yeah.
Cool. And then your third and fourth book you're working on. That's really awesome, man. Like it's so cool that you literally were not really a writer and then you start writing books and publishing. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, and you're doing it all yourself too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Covers.
Dude,
sometimes, people just have that inspiration like down the line, like Para. Like, I mean, it just kind of
Well, James, it's been a real pleasure having you on tonight. I do appreciate it again.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you
James.
guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. Have a good night.
Yeah, man.
You too.
Good luck, buddy.